there is the highest capacity of 63%, which has risen to 62.7% in 2021. The medium-scale firms realized a capacity utilization level of 61%, while the small-scale firms have a lower level of capacity utilization at 53%. There was a slide that was presented by Dr. Dube, and we discussed this yesterday with you, Sekai. And that slide, what's remarkable about that, Dr. Dube, if you recall, the slide says there was a slight dip in capacity utilization in 2022. Now, that might look like a negative, but really, in reality, it wasn't. It's a pity that we are not able to show it right now. But on that slide, if we had looked back to the figures of 2019, capacity utilization in March 2019 was 36.1. And now, when we look at it, it's 56.1%. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to take note of this because it's quite remarkable. And Dr. Mangunja, on that same slide, which I'm sure we should be able to see later, if we look back to 2011, capacity utilization was, I took note, was 56.1, 2011. And then a lot has happened since then. And now we are here. It's remarkable. We have continued to go up despite some of the economic changes that we have seen. And I also just want to refer to some of the results regarding drinks and tobacco, that they really increased production. Now that's really interesting, which means we are drinking a lot more. And are we smoking a lot more? Or are we exporting a lot more? But what's important is that there's an increase in production. I'm also delighted to note that technology upgrade by local firms continues to be very high in 2022. I believe that the recent introduction of SI 121 of 2022, with zero rated customs duty on capital equipment, is now bearing tangible results. The Permanent Secretary and I, Dr. Mavis Sibanda, over the past 2 years, we've had some very strong engagements with companies bringing in equipment. And this SI 121 of 2022 has really enabled companies to bring in the latest technology and thus making an impact on increased production. We saw that on the slide again. We went up in technology and innovation by a remarkable 47%. So can I just go back to that slide? Dr. Mangunja, that slide is interesting. If you look at 2011, we see we've got 57.2%. Then we've experienced a dip, quite a bit of turbulence there, and then we go up in 2018 to 48.2. But ladies and gentlemen, look what happened. 2019, we were at 36.4%. And then 2020, we're beginning to rise a bit to 47.0%. Then we have 56.3%. Now this is about, should we say about December? So right now we're at 56.1%. But we need to look this in the context of where we have come from. And also look at it in the context of what policy changes have been introduced. And I think that's a slide that really needs to be looked at in terms of what has happened in this environment under the leadership of His Excellency, the President, Dr. Mnangagwa. Thank you for that slide. And let me also just mention the Special Drawing Rights Fund. We have 22.5 million Special Drawing Rights Fund SDR. This amount is for retooling and development of value chains. captains of industry, I really want you to think about this, because through my ministry, we are facilitating access to the SDR. And I've noted that a number of companies had not fully understood what it means. Yes, there was bureaucracy, but what we are doing more recently is to ensure that there isn't too much bureaucracy and that there isn't too many bottlenecks. But this really is a fund that we must look at. It's availed to target pharmaceuticals, cotton, leather, agro-processing, as well as fertilizer. In this regard, companies in these prioritized sectors are urged to come forth and access this facility through the designated implementing banks such as EcoBank, POSB, Bank ABC, and also FBC. Ladies and gentlemen, the manufacturing sector results have also come at a very opportune time where we're beginning to review the Zimbabwe National Industrial Development Policy, which started in 2019 and ends in 2023. In order to ensure that this policy continues to be private sector driven, I therefore urge the productive sector to actively contribute to its development. I'm also very pleased to see the optimism that's been spoken about, and also the resilience that's been noted by the President first, by Ms. Kwarika, by also Dr. Mangunja, and by Archie from Enriches and others here present. It's very encouraging to see that 4 years ago, as I had mentioned before, that sense of optimism, we didn't quite feel it. But it's 4 years later, and I have to say, Sekai, I'm really feeling it now. So let me also take this opportunity to renew government, and in particular, my ministry, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, support to the manufacturing sector as we focus on a long-term growth trajectory. In closing, let me just close by 3 key points. What we are witnessing from this manufacturing survey is, number 1, increasing technology and innovation, resulting in availability of locally made goods on our shelves. And that has an impact on the consumer. Because the prices have somewhat remained stable. And also the consumer has availability. And also the consumer is able to consume goods that are safe and also goods that are of quality. The second point I need to close with is a celebration of increased investment. We've seen local companies like Kaya Cement. Now we know you, you are not other. And also just to note what Mr. Chikwata said, that cement in 2017 was $10.35 US, and now it's $9 US. Again, a good impact on the consumer for an availability of locally made cement. And lastly, it's the issue of optimism and resilience, and also faith and belief in the government policies. This is really remarkable. And lastly, celebrating this strengthened relationship between government and the private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, with these remarks, I now want to declare the CZI Manufacturing Survey Report of 2022 officially launched. Thanks.